This is StoryBeat, Storytellers on Storytelling, an exploration into how master storytellers and artists develop and build brilliant stories and works of art that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators of all kinds find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Center for Media Innovation on the campus of Point Park University in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to give us a rating or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great StoryBeat episodes to you. Well, my guest today, singer Marieann Meringolo, has been called the Miracle at Feinstein's and has been compared to both a young Barbra Streisand and Linda Eder. She's a MAC award-winning recording artist as well as a BackStage Bistro Award-Winner for Outstanding Vocalist, receiving rave reviews for her powerful interpretations of songs written by the legendary team of Alan and Marilyn Bergman. The Wall Street Journal noted of her tribute show to the Bergmans, Ms. Meringolo's powerhouse interpretation makes full use of the dramatic Bergman lyric, and her current CD, Between Yesterday and Tomorrow, The Songs of Alan and Marilyn Bergman, is garnering great reviews around the world. Marieann can also be heard on her critically acclaimed debut album, Hold Me Close, and her second album, Imagine If We Only Had Love, which won a BackStage Bistro Award and MAC Award for Outstanding CD and Recording of the Year. You can catch Marieann live performing on concert stages around the U.S. and internationally, and as a headliner on prestigious cruise lines such as Oceania, Regent Seven Seas, and Princess. So I'm truly delighted to welcome the brilliant vocalist Marieann Meringolo to StoryBeat today. Marieann, welcome to the show.
Oh, wow, Steve. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
Oh, well,
happy to be here.
It's well-deserved. So you have been performing for a while now. You're not totally new at this thing. When did all this begin? Go back in time and tell us how this all started for you.
Well, I grew up on Long Island, New York.
Yeah.
And as far as I can remember, I was always singing since a little kid. And it wasn't until, I guess, high school, when I was in the choir and the shows, the talent shows, I knew that I wanted to sing professionally and I wanted to really pursue a singing career. So ever since then, right after high school, I started coming into the city, doing classes at HB Studios, and started entering singing contests in the city. So that's where it kind of got started. And actually, even before that, before I started coming into the city, there was a community theater where I grew up in Long Island in Port Jefferson. And I started out as a theater apprentice, and then I started getting roles in their shows. And they had a smaller stage, along with their main stage, they had a smaller stage, kind of like a cabaret setting.
Right.
And that was my first taste in that world of an intimate audience. And I really loved seeing the audience faces and their reactions, and I think that's where the bug bit me way back then.
How old were you then?
When I was around 16, I started going to their open mics, and then I was cast in one of their productions. 17.
So you were
late teens.
You were a kid. I mean, you were trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But you've been singing since you were a little person, yeah?
I was. I remember seeing my third grade report card that my singing, the singing teacher wrote in, and she's like, Marieann has a beautiful voice, we should encourage this. So it's since then that I was just naturally singing.
I think it's, it's something that you've always wanted to do. Nobody forced it on you. That's the point.
Yes, exactly.
You just did it.
It was a natural thing that was a desire that was born in me, I believe.
So who were your earliest inspirations or influences? Who did you listen to? Who did you think, wow, I want to be like that?
Well, the first person that comes to mind is Barbra Streisand. I remember just listening to her albums, and my dad was also a big music fan, so he introduced music into the house, always playing different albums, and one of the first actually albums. He had this the Butterfly album, the Barbra Streisand Butterfly
Sure.
album, and one of my favorites. I remember Grandma's Hands on that album, and I believe it wasn't long after that I saw Funny Girl, the movie, and just loved her. And it's since then. So she was my earliest influence, I'd say. But I also I loved early Bette Midler, and I actually loved early Donna Summer albums, and Johnny Mathis was playing in our household, and Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
So all just that great music of Rosemary Clooney. I loved all those Italian songs that she did. They were a lot of fun.
So I've had the joy of listening to a little bit of your singing online. I've checked you out, and I can hear all of those influences in your voice. That you have that same kind of mellifluous, buttery quality to your voice that all those singers you just mentioned have.
Wow, thank you. Well, that's quite a compliment. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's there. It's kind of obvious. It's all you got to do is listen a little bit, So did you then have any kind of formal training?
I didn't have formal training, but I was always in the choir since in school. So, but it wasn't until I was around 14 that we had a choir teacher in ninth grade. For me, high school was 9th through 12th,
mm-hmm.
and the choir teacher there taught us how to breathe and to be supported by the diaphragm. So, and that all just came natural to me to sing that way. So
you've
reinforced it for me.
You've never really gone into training on any of this. You're sort of a little bit self-trained, or you self-perpetuate yourself. Yeah,
I'm self-trained, and for me it worked by listening. I guess those artists I mentioned, and I loved the sound that I was hearing, so I wanted to be able to create that and just that warm, buttery sound, and I believe it just came from me naturally that way.
Well,
but I did work at it. I guess I worked at it on my own without formal training.
You clearly have the gift of a great ear, aside from your voice, which is amazing, but you clearly have a good ear as well. Nobody's telling you, hey, you're off pitch or any of that. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's that's not something that one can go acquire. You have that or you don't. It can be developed, but you can't go get it, right?
That's true.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't
so
go down.
I do feel blessed to have that.
Well, yeah, and rightly so. You can't go down to the Good Voice store and buy one. You just have to have it and then develop it. So for many, music is a calling. I'm guessing it's like a calling for you, yeah?
Oh, definitely. I can't not do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of who I am. I'm the happiest when I'm performing. It's an incredible high after a show.
Mm-hmm.
The putting it together, the actual performing is just it's hard to describe what it is, but it's definitely a draw and a passion that is just in me.
It's the air you breathe, as they say.
Yes, exactly.
So when you're giving live performances, because you specialize in live performances, what are the biggest challenges for you, either pre-show or during the show? What are your biggest challenges, and how do you overcome them?
I'd say before I get on the stage, my biggest challenges are my nerves.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I get nervous.
And how do you deal with it?
I deal with it by grounding myself. I will say this, because it may be, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I read about it years ago, which gave me the courage to try it. I do take a beta blocker before I get on the stage. It's called propranolol.
Okay.
And I was afraid to try it. What happened to me years ago, as I was, getting busier with my schedule, I would get on. It was my greatest desire to do it. I'd get on stage, and all of a sudden, I was so nervous. I was letting that get in the way of me communicating with my audience.
Sure.
Putting across a song like I wanted to do it, and I'm like, well, why am I even doing this if I get so nervous that I can't even perform the way I want to?
Right.
So I had read about it in the New York Times that string players from Juilliard were taking it, because it stopped their fingers from shaking.
Huh.
I would get on stage and my lip would just start quivering, and I felt like my voice quivered too. So, and then I had heard that Barbra Streisand took it. So I thought, okay, if Barbra can take it, I'm going to try it. And the thing that I was afraid of is I didn't want it to change my personality. I didn't want it to take away anything. I like to be funny on stage. I like to talk with the audience and have an exciting personality. So I didn't want to dull any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was willing to try it, and I thought, well, let's just do it, and I did, and it took the edge off, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I think since then I was really just able to know I have that, to not let the nerves get in the way, to block anything that I'm doing. So. Definitely, that's a big help. And aside, the nerves are still there. It just takes it down a notch,
sure,
where I can, can get on the stage. And but I also do. Aside from that, I still need to kind of, have little mantra and I do kind of like a little meditation before I get on the stage, and I visualize exactly, going out there and that kind of thing. So all of that together.
Do you have a regular ritual with your voice before you go on? Do you warm it up in a certain way?
I do some warm-ups, yeah. I do some warm-ups, just light vocalizing. Sometimes, though, before, like when I'm traveling and I'm meeting with musicians for the first time and we need to review the show, whether it's at a venue out of town or on a cruise ship, usually I'm meeting with them, hours before the performance that night.
Right.
So sometimes that becomes my warm-up for my voice, just running through the show with the musicians. And I have little things I do, just little light vocalizing, and I try not to talk too much that day on the show either.
And have you ever had the experience of where you had to talk that day and you then went on, and was there an issue with that?
There are times when I was, if I had a day job and I had to work that day and then go on stage later that night, it didn't feel, I didn't like that, because I feel like my nerves were tensing up everything, knowing I had to perform and work. So, so in that instance, I would say it's best to just not talk.
So this is very good. This is very good information for listeners out there that deal with their nerves. I have some nerves every once in a while too. And you talk about Barbra Streisand; she notoriously has terrible stage fright. So that's not unusual. As I understand it, the number one thing that people go to psychologists for is being in front of people, and so that's what you're talking about, is the idea of being in front of people and performing, and so I wasn't trying to press you on that too hard. I think it's just good information for the listeners who may themselves have those issues. How do you deal with it? When you're
absolutely.
For sure. So when you're thinking about your show, we'll talk about the Bergmans in a minute, because that's a very specific thing. But when you're doing shows that maybe partly the Bergmans, but isn't all about the Bergmans, what do you do to select material? Do you have a certain audience in mind, or how do you select material?
The way I've selected material in the past is a thought will come to me. I think about, well, what do I want to put out there? And I remember one of my first shows that was more of a themed show was when I did a tribute to Johnny Mathis.
Right.
And he was my favorite male singer growing up. So that inspired me. I just got the hit, like, just do a Johnny Mathis medley. So, Johnny Mathis tribute.
Right.
So that's how that was born. And just getting an idea, I get I do a show called Here's to the Ladies, and I guess it's basically, I want to perform, and I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? What material will make sense for me? So it's usually because I have a passion about it, either about the singer. So Johnny Mathis, for me, it was great because I could sing his songs and then talk in between of how much it meant to me, and that also created the pattern for to make it a show, not just a whole bunch of songs on stage. And my Here's to the Ladies show, the same thing. It's
Is that Sondheim?
I take songs that meant something to me, and then can tell a story about why. And you know, it's not always that I tell a story of why I'm singing a song, but sometimes it helps, or you know, you have something to say about it, that you know what the inspiration was.
So in other words, you try to put your shows together with some kind of spine to it, some kind of way that it tells maybe a larger story. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I do like my shows to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it is telling a story.
That's helpful.
I do like theme shows. Yeah.
I think it helps the audience to feel their way through it, because we naturally know what a story feels like, and even if you're not telling a specific story, which you can do, but even if you're not, it's good to have that beginning, middle, and end to it. I think it helps the audience to sink in and enjoy the show more. Here's
exactly.
I assume Here's to the Ladies is Sondheim, right?
No, actually it's not. I call it Here's to the Ladies, a salute to great ladies in song. So they celebrate artists such as Peggy Lee, Rosemary Clooney, Barbra Streisand, Judy Garland. I do a Dionne Warwick medley. Yeah.
Well, I
great ladies and
I'll go back to.
I think you're thinking of Here's to the Ladies Who Lunch, right?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Sondheim.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about. I think that's from Company, if I remember it right.
Yes.
I want to go back to Johnny Mathis for just half a second, because I just wanted to say how cool it is. I've had a song that I've written to have him cover it. That's a pretty neat thing.
He covered a song you wrote?
Yes, he covered a song called Once Upon a Dream from Jekyll and Hyde, which I wrote.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so that's a very cool thing to hear him sing your stuff. That's pretty cool.
That Once Upon a Dream, I'd say that's a dream come true.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
What do you do to bring inspiration both to the songs that you're singing and to your technique?
Well, I bring myself into the song. Not necessarily. I don't feel like I'm a character per se in the song. When I'm singing a lyric, whether it's happened to me or not, if it's happened to me, then I put myself right there and I'm singing it as if it's happening for the first time. And then if it hasn't happened to me and I'm singing a lyric, there are times when I could imagine if I were telling a story and putting myself as if it has happened or if it's going to happen. I did that a lot with the Bergman music, with their lyrics. I know you haven't asked any questions about the Bergmans yet.
Sure, we can talk about them. We'll talk about them. So the Bergmans, I am curious. In the intro, I said that there's a use of the dramatic Bergman lyric. What, in your mind, is a Bergman lyric? What separates it? What makes it so?
With the Bergman lyric, the reason I'm drawn to them so much is because every time I sing one of their songs, it is like I'm living it for the first time. They have a way of writing where it is conversational. It feels like it's just coming right off the tip of your tongue. It's like a conversation. So it feels fresh every single time. And to me, that's what keeps it so exciting for me. And I find that although the songs have arrangement, and I sing within that arrangement, the way my phrasing may be just a little different each time, just because of the way it's coming across in that moment. So that's what makes it really special for me.
Do you think that they write in a particularly visual way, or what is it? I mean, or maybe you can't put your finger on it, which is also okay, because sometimes art is not easy to define in any way. But I think that they write. I think they write in a pretty particularly visual way, and you get a story.
I think you're right. It's very cinematic. I feel it is visual, and I feel like the audience is visualizing. When I'm performing their songs, I feel like the audience is visualizing it with me. There are a lot of songs that we mash up together to make the story even bigger, or maybe different intention of what it was written for. But when you put two of the songs together, it tells the deeper story that I wanted to tell.
Right.
And I don't do a lot of necessary talking within this particular Bergman show, because I let the music speak for itself and tell the story. And it's just unbelievable how I feel the audience is just taking that ride with me. It's pretty special.
Have you had the opportunity to have them come to a show?
No, not yet. But I'm going to be in L.A.
Right.
At Feinstein's at Batillo's on March 30th.
Right.
And I'm hoping Alan will be able to be there. I'm not sure Marilyn would be able to come. I kind of heard that that might be a possibility. So that would be an incredible dream come true.
Well, you would be entitled to be a little bit nervous that night.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Just a little.
Just a little. But that's a good thing. That should be a fun thing. If you can turn it into a fun thing, I think you'll have a great time with it. Because I'll guarantee you that they'll be very generous one way or another, you know. I don't know them personally, but I've certainly heard lots of stories about them, and they're known as some of the greatest people in show business. So, that's a good thing.
They did write to me, and I do have a note from them. I framed it when they knew I was when I had this CD release concert, and I invited them to it, and they said if they were in New York, they would have been here. And they were, I feel like I got their blessing, which was so special.
Well, isn't that wonderful when that happens, you know?
Yeah.
Are among all the songs that you sing, and it could be theirs, it could be some other songs, do you have any that are a particular favorite that you just can't wait to get to every time? Or are they just all your babies?
The Bergman show, it's just one big, Christmas present. It really is. It's every single... I get through one and I'm like, oh, I get to do this now, and I get to do this now. So, yeah, the Bergman show is pretty spectacular as far as that goes for me. If I had to pick one of my favorites that I just love telling the story, On My Way to You is just such a beautiful message about having no regrets in life, and whether it's on to finding your perfect partner or just any opportunity in life, but just knowing that we're perfect right where we are. And I love giving that message in the show. And
every time you sing it, you say that you're sort of singing it new for the first time. That means you're being in the moment with it. How often when you're singing are you surprised by what comes out? Like this is not what you were expecting to have happen that night.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm not surprised, but I'm more of it's a delight. It's more of interesting that I'm feeling this at the moment, or just kind of like you and I having this conversation right now.
Right, it's happening in the moment.
That. It's kind of just being able to just be the vessel. I just let myself be the vessel of what's going to come out next.
Do you feel, so this is interesting to me because a lot of creative people, a lot of scientists, people that are creative, let alone artists, say of their work or of what they do that they are not causing it to happen. It's coming through them, that they are the vessel for it. And so they'll use terms like it comes as a bolt out of the blue, or it came out of nowhere. They'll say things like that, or I'm a conduit and it's coming through me. Do you feel that way when you're singing, that you're just the conduit to have it come out in the way that it comes out?
Yeah, there are times when that is definitely the case. When I get out of my way, I am, being a human being, it's like that is the ultimate goal, to let that happen every single time. There are times when I am singing, if I am nervous, I'm like, sometimes it's like I'm singing one lyric, but I'm like, okay, what's the next lyric? Or it's coming, I hear it in my head before it comes out. So those are the times where I'm like, oh, why is that happening? Instead of, and the times when I'm just the vessel and just letting it flow through me, those are the most amazing times that I just feel like such a high to let that happen.
So that is
the ultimate goal.
That's analogous to what many actors talk about. It's the same thing where actors talk about that thing about being in the moment. And so that they don't feel like they're acting at that moment, they are being. And I think that's sort of what you're saying with the singing. You're just being as a singer.
Exactly.
There's no force to it.
Just being and trusting. It's it's kind of like let go and let God. Let it just come through. And that is my ultimate belief. So
all right, so
amazing.
So clearly you do a lot of live performance, but you've also recorded a few things, and so I'm wondering, in terms of over time, if you can share, if you have anything to share about what you've learned in live performance that you've then taken in and used in the studio. Is there anything?
I guess when I'm performing live, there's a freshness, an excitement, because you are performing off of a live audience.
Right.
So when you're in a studio, you don't have that. So it's more about creating that energy. And actually, the last album that I did was a live album, and I haven't done a studio album in a while. But it is about, I find my best performances are when you can do a full take within the studio, because otherwise you are overthinking things and you're not letting it be natural. So in that sense, I prefer a live recording over a studio recording. But I do, and one of my favorite, times has been in a recording studio. I mean, hours could go by, and it's just an incredible feeling. But I would say, just to keep it fresh and to not overthink it, and it feels more technical in the studio because you have the headphones on, and you're wanting the sound to be right, and the blend of the other musicians. So it's a little more complicated, I'd say, within a studio, and then you're concerned about the time and the money you're paying, for studio time. So all that plays into it.
Well, I'm sure you've seen clips of Barbra Streisand singing with a full orchestra in the studio, and that's how she does it. She doesn't record it to tracks either. So
yeah, and that's my favorite way to record. Not that I've had the opportunity to do it with a full orchestra, but that's definitely a goal.
Sure, and so did that guy who could sing a little, Mr. Sinatra. He was always in front of an orchestra. So
yeah. So when I wanted to start getting into the studio, I just thought, I want to do it live, because even that everyone playing, even though we're in our own isolated booths and stuff, I don't like just doing takes, and to me that doesn't feel good, and it doesn't feel authentic.
So you probably then think of yourself much more as a live performer than a recording artist, I assume.
Yeah, I would say so.
And there ain't nothing wrong with that, I mean, there's you don't have to be a recording artist in order to be a good working professional singer. That's for sure. Though obviously it helps to expand your world somewhat if you have those records, which you do. So it's good to get that out in the world like that. What would you say is your favorite thing about performing in front of a live audience? What's the best part of it?
The best part is really the energy that's created between me and the audience. I'd say that's the most exciting part, performing live, because I could be in my living room singing live, or rehearsing, and it's still a live performance. But it's not until I'm there with an audience that I'm excited to see them, they're excited to see me, and something beautiful gets created out of that energy.
Right.
So it feeds me. It really does. So that's that.
So I'm going to ask you a question I ask lots of different artists, and it's not an easy question to answer, and that is simply this. For you, what makes a good song good? Can you put your finger on what makes something good?
When you are singing it coming from your heart, coming from truth, because people in the audience can feel that too. So when you're connecting to what you're singing, people feel that. I feel it as the singer, and when I'm seeing someone else sing, to me, I'm most affected when I can really feel the authenticity and the honesty coming from the artist. That's what I like to portray. Yeah.
What do you hear out in the world today that you think to yourself, I've never sung that, I would really like to? Is there anything out there right now? Do you listen to folks like Michael Bublé? Who do you listen to?
I used to listen to him more, not so much listening to him these days. I've been listening to Linda Ronstadt again recently. She had the the new documentary come out about her
Right.
health and her career.
Right.
Have you seen it?
I have not, but I saw the Kennedy Center Awards, and that they
Okay.
alluded to it. So at some point I will check it out.
Yeah, I was really blown away by her as an artist and her career, and I just feel so sad that Parkinson's has taken her voice. But to listen to those old recordings of her, and I would like to explore some Linda Ronstadt, I think.
Huh. Well, you know, that when you look at that particular career, that is a big, wide, rangy career. She had big range.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
she could sing pretty much anything.
She could sing anything, and that blew me away. Yeah. So what an impressive career, what an impressive voice, and yeah, it was pretty special to see that. And again, I just feel so sad for her.
Yes, I agree. It must be really difficult to be in her shoes, although she seems to handle it with great grace, and so there's something about that, you know. So, describe your day as a singer. When you're getting ready to perform, describe your day. So what do you do? I know we've talked about preparation prior to going on stage, but I know you don't talk a lot, but are you thinking your way through things, or are you trying to not think about it?
You know, I usually I run the show in my head. I run the songs in my head. I'm not talking to I'm not having conversations on the phone with anyone. I'm just I like to be left alone, just kind of in my zone. And I take a nap in the afternoon.
Right.
And as I'm falling asleep, I'm running the whole show in my head. Yeah, it's just quiet time. It's quiet time for me. It's just getting grounded into the knowing I have a performance that night. Sometimes it's, you know, preparing if I have to get my nails done, that type of thing.
Right.
But I leave time to just, it's for me and it's for the show, nothing else. And I don't apologize about it. That's just, you know, what I have to be in order to perform that evening.
Oh, I don't think you should apologize for it. That's your practice and technique, and you're going in front of people who are paying money to see you, and they deserve their dollar, you know, whatever they're paying. So if that's what it takes.
It's sleeping late, and you know, it's really just taking care of my voice, and it's doing whatever I need to do to feel comfortable and to feel grounded. I also work with I love essential oils, and I'll put some of them on my throat, and I breathe them in, and those are all little things that I like to use just to keep me in the moment and grounded as well.
Tell us a little bit about working on board ships. What is that like? I've never actually been on a cruise. How is that different, or isn't it? It's just same deal.
No, it is different, and sometimes I wonder why I do it, because sometimes it could be a little unnerving. First of all, there's a lot of different elements. I love it that I get to meet people from all over the world. That's a lot of fun. Usually when I go on, I bring on 2 separate shows. They don't want a lot, maybe 50-minute shows, 2 50-minute shows. And the most challenging part for me is meeting with the musicians the day of. You're just hoping you're going to get guys who are great readers.
Right.
Because I bring my charts. So basically, I don't travel with my musical director. I just go on as, you know, with myself, and I have charts for each of the instruments made up. And for the most part, it's pretty seamless. Sometimes I have to talk them through. I have some medleys and things that. So that part can be a little challenging, but it's, you know, never been a train wreck or anything like that.
Right.
It's just sometimes it's not the ideal rehearsal time that I feel is required to put on like a really beautiful show. And so that part, I feel bad about it. They don't really, they expect you to come on the ship and just bang out a show. And I do that, and I'm professional, and I'm doing my end of it, but I just wish it was a little more supported, where you could really meet with the musicians and talk everything through. And then sometimes there's also a language barrier. They're not from, you know, the musicians are not always speaking great English. So
right.
thank God music is universal, so we get through it that way. And they're all nice and wonderful, and everyone has a great attitude, and so I like that part about it. And then there's the days when I've gone on the ship and it was really bad sea day where even the cruise director's like, listen, he's like, I'm not even sure how many people are coming to your show tonight because everyone's in their room like really sick. I'm like, oh great, So he's like, if you need to take your shoes off, you need to sit for the whole show. I really don't care, So I've done that, and I joke into the audience, the people that did show up, and I said, I cut out the roller skating number for this show. No. But at one point, I remember that it was so bad they had to put sandbags on the piano legs so it wouldn't roll across the stage.
Wow.
So, I mean, those, but and then other stories are really wonderful where it's a seamless performance, and then I'm like I feel like a celebrity on the ship after I've done my show. I can't go anywhere without people stopping me. I make new friends, and I still have friends to this day from years ago that I've met just from performing on the ship. So it's, with all that being said, I love doing it. So, the food is great. I work. I love that I don't have to prepare any meals for myself. Everything you get fed, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and again, you get to see the world. So it is a lot of fun.
So I love to ask people what kind of performance disasters they've been through and how do you recover from them? What do you do? Have you had something like that happen where it was like things just went wrong, and how do you deal with it?
Well, I do remember early on when it was actually my first cruise job, and this is, what was it, in 2011, I think, or maybe 2010. It was like a 14-day cruise. And again, I only had to bring 2 shows with me. I was going through the Johnny Mathis medley, and it was the first time I was performing it. I had just had it charted for me, so I was new to it. And it was the first time I had to actually talk through a show with musicians without my musical director there.
Right.
And it wasn't easy for me. I got through it, but I remember at one point we're doing the Johnny Mathis medley, and they kind of messed up the rhythm that I'm used to.
Yeah.
So I did stop it in mid-performance and asked to start again and try to be as gracious as I could. And, in front of an audience, it's a pretty embarrassing thing to happen, in a live performance. But I said, you know what, I want to give you the full experience of this, so we're going to start again. And we did, and we got through it. But, things like that. It's I guess how you handle it with your audience.
Well, I think that's the reason why I'm asking the question is how do you handle it with the audience? How do you recover from it? And I think, most good seasoned professionals, they make light of it. They work through it. They start again. I mean, there's the famous incident of Adele starting over on the Grammys, where she said, "No, got to get this right," and she started all over again on the Grammys.
That's right. Yeah, on the Grammys. Yeah.
So
can you imagine the nerves on the Grammys?
Oh my goodness, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to start over, the Grammys are not exactly the right place to do that. But she handled it with great grace. Again, that word grace. I think that's an important word.
It's true, and it does happen time to time. As a performer, there's you're human, and things happen, and there are times when it makes it even funnier. There are times I remember, not this holiday show, but the year before, last year, I had one of the songwriters in my audience, Larry Kirshner. I don't know if you know him.
Sure.
He wrote. I was doing 2 of his songs in my holiday show. And I started the song, and I'm like, and I went up on the lyric. I'm like, oh my God! And the composer is here, and so and everyone was just cracking up. And then we did it again, and it was it just made light of it, and it actually cured my nerves for the rest of the show. So it was fun.
Well, once you get past it, you're past it. So everything else is downhill from there.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean.
Exactly.
So, all right, so we're coming close to the end of the show here, and I'm just curious, in all your experiences, can you tell us, beyond what you've already told us, any particular kind of a story where something weird or strange or oddball or quirky or just plain funny happened?
Well, yeah, I could. aside from doing my own cabaret shows, I every now and then I'll go on an audition for a production show.
Sure.
So I got called for this audition for Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
And actually, it was for a production show. It was going to be on a cruise line. And I went in and I did the singing part, and I got a call back, and they said, okay, tomorrow we want you to just want to see how you dance. And I said, oh, no. I said, you don't understand. I don't dance. And they're like, oh, don't worry. It's not about that. We just want to see you move a little bit. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, oh, dear God, I do not dance. So anyway, I come back the next day, and there's a full blown out choreography scenario going on where it's 3 rows of dancers, and they're all in their dancing garb, and I'm like wearing just regular clothes, not dance shoes because I don't own any. And the choreographer is Italian, so he's doing all these moves, and he has an Italian accent, and I'm in the back line and just trying to figure out what we're doing. So anyway, there were a couple of numbers he's running, and he's like, you got it, and everyone's like, yes, and I'm like, I don't, but I'm just letting them go on. What I didn't realize is that after this whole scenario was over, that they were taking in 2 people at a time in front of the panel, in front of the people who were auditioning all the performers, and they had a person in the front and a person in the back. And I was just praying I'd be the person in the back, but that was not the case. I was the person in the front. And I was literally making up dance moves. I mean, it was so embarrassing and hilarious at the same time, where the director came to me afterwards, and they still, believe it or not, they still kept me on. I don't know why. But he's like, I said, dear God, if, I ever really make a name for myself, because they videotape everything, I said, that videotape is going viral. I know it, So it was, it's funny today. It wasn't funny while it was happening, but it was, one of those crazy show business stories that can happen.
Well, yeah, it's almost like what people talk about in really bad dreams, where
it was a bad dream. It really was.
You're caught like doing something.
Bad performance dreams.
All right. So, do you have a solid piece of advice or a tip for those who may be just starting out and trying to get somewhere, or those who are in a little bit and trying to get to the next level?
Yeah, I would say if it's your passion, don't ever give up. Don't just keep working at it. Keep seeing live performance. Find what inspires you to be the best you can be, and to learn from it, and to keep growing. And just listen to all you can. If you're a singer, if you're a dancer, whatever you do, I would say, or an actor, just find what your passion is and just keep making it better. And one of the things I think also helped me is know your limitations. It's important to not have to feel like you have to do everything, but find that the one thing. And if you are great at everything, if you are a triple threat, then that's amazing, and go for that. But if you're not, just know that you're good enough, and knowing what gift you've been given, and to make that something you want to give to the world, and just make that your passion, and just do it.
And don't dance if you don't have to.
Right. Exactly. I'm a great freestyle dancer. Just don't give me any choreography.
Well, I've been speaking for the last about 50 minutes to the tremendously gifted singer Marieann Meringolo, and it's been a great pleasure to have you on the show today. So I appreciate you stopping by.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve, for having me. Really an honor.
And so we've come to the end of today's Story Beat. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to give us a comment, rating, or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great episodes to you. This podcast would not have been possible without the generous support of the Center for Media Innovation on the campus of Point Park University. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, And may all your stories be unforgettable.